Well, drag story hours are certainly hot topics these days across the country, with lawmakers from both the right and the left weighing in on the matter. Well, here in New York, Attorney General Letitia James is making her position known. She's going to host a drag story hour for families with kids on Sunday.
Okay, now while James is being criticized, no one is coming after her, you could say. But the same cannot be said for Queens Councilwoman Vickie Paladino. The Republican lawmaker has kicked off the council's mental health committee after opposing Drag Queen Story Hour for kids. Councilwoman Paladino joins us now to give her side of the story. And you're nodding your head because I kind of ad-lib that part, because I think the important here that people have a drag show, whatever you want to do. Leave the kids out
alone.
of it.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Drag queens have been around forever and ever.
Right.
It's nothing personal against people who choose to do this as a performer. Nothing wrong with it. However, drag queens of yesteryear are not drag queens of today, and they do not belong in our kids' schools. You know, you're talking about kids as young as 5 years old, and that is just not permissible. And another thing, they go in without parents' consent. A lot of this is not, you know, a note does not go home to mother and father that says, you know, we're going to be hosting Drag Queen Story Hour on Wednesday at noon.
When I was growing up, by the way, we had to do that to go to Bible class.
That's right. No, it's true.
You need to sign permission for everything.
You needed a parent's permission. So they're overstepping, to say the very least. It's now, I'll feel free to say, it's out of control. Totally out of control.
And you were actually kicked off one of your committees for simply speaking out against, again, Drag Story Hour for kids. How did that go down? I mean, I can't even imagine. And oddly, it was a pro mental health committee, which I'm thinking, well, they definitely need you on that committee.
It would be nice to be able to have differences of opinion, don't you think? That's what makes the world go round.
Sure.
That's America.
And when you're part of a committee, you don't expect everybody to agree with you 100% of the time. You hope to meet in the middle, figure things out, and go from there. However, drag queens were never brought up in the mental health committee. And the way it started with me was back in June. This is 10 months later. And back in June, a very mild tweet was put out by myself. And I said that anybody who in my district wants to go along with Drag Queen Story Hour, my schools, which I fund hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to. And I love my schools. I grew up in my district, by the way. These are my schools. These are my kids. And I said, I won't fund them. Yeah. And through that, the repercussions started to come down. My life was
They freaked out because
they
you
totally
were
went nuts. Let me tell you something. It went absolutely out of control. So through that, they were going to bring me before the ethics committee. For what? Freedom of speech?
Wow.
Well, I'm really sorry about that, but I believe in freedom of speech. So what happened was we had lawyers come up, pro bono. They called me, and we went to a pre-ethics hearing, and they found I did nothing wrong. So now here it is 10 months later, and the Democrats decided to make this a litmus test.
Yeah.
Because any Democrat that disagrees is a real
if
problem.
you go against a group think, then you're out.
You know, I've always thought Drag Queen Story Hour, they become provocative, you know, the drag shows for kids. That's a sentence I don't even like. It's like if you had strippers to go to a local...
Exactly.
People would say, no, you can't do that. Well, you're talking
they're
about
entertainers, right? They could read a story, too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
By the way, just last year reported that New York City spent $200,000 of taxpayer money, of course, to have drag queens performing in public schools. Now,
remember this, too, in case those that don't know. Drag Queen Story Hour is a non-for-profit, nationwide non-for-profit. They are making millions and millions of dollars. So it's not just New York City. They're everywhere.
Right.
And so does that money then go to the performers? Because I can think of other great places the money could go
yes,
to,
exactly right. With all the troubles that we have.
Sure.
Now, Letitia James is choosing to do this on Sunday. Here's your litmus test right here. You have the Attorney General of the state of New York Doesn't she have other things to worry about than drag
You
queen
would
story hour?
think.
But who's paying for that drag queen story hour? That
Good
was
question.
James?
I'd have to look into
Yeah,
that.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, the taxpayer dollars, I would guess.
That was my
You know,
guess.
she's AG. She would have to know where the money's coming from, right?
What should people? Unfortunately, we're running short of time. What should people be doing? What is going to work to get common sense to strike people?
Well, I think it's happening now.
Yeah.
Because I really think we have reached the boiling point. This is it.
Yeah, and again, drag shows.
No,
fine.
I have no. Listen, I'll give you
It's
one
the
second.
kids. Yeah.
Second background. My family was in the jewelry business from 1947 until 2014. We made jewelry for show people.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew about transvestites. I knew about drag queens from a million years ago. I've been around a long time. I have nothing against drag queens. I've got nothing against the gay community. I got nothing. I don't believe, and I tell you now, they do not believe, they do not belong in our schools. And another thing a lot of people do not actually know is how they do perform. So you could bet whatever goes on Sunday will not be what actually goes on during drag queen story hour. It's become very provocative.
Wow.
All
All
right.
right. Yeah. Vickie Paladino, great to have you. Thanks for
Thank
sharing
you.
your story.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.